Hello friends, again with you our Couture Embroidery Academy Vintage Rose, and today our video will continue. We will continue making videos about the embroideries of the famous serial Games of Thrones. And in this video we will try to make the embroidery of the house of the Arryn. We checked all the embroideries, of course. We purchased the big book of the costumes of the serial, of course, and through that book we were looking and checking what exactly we can try to remake. We can try to maybe make something close to the original, of course, with the abilities, the possibilities that we have. And we decided to stop on this bird. I will show you closer. As you can see, we want to make the jacket of it, so it's now in the process of making. And we are making the embroidery from the dress of the wife of the head of a house. What I can tell about this embroidery is very peculiar, and I can say that rather difficult, but it's also done only by the needle, because the Luneville hook here is not absolutely possible to use, because we will make lots of stamp work. As you can see, the bird it has a volume, and also we will put lots of metallic threads and cords, and also there is no need of a hook. So those who do not know how to work with a hook, you can say great, because we will have no need to use it. We will work only with a needle, and you will have to prepare the needle and the hoops or the embroidery frame. But since this embroidery is rather big, you can see it covers nearly the whole back of the jacket. It's a short jacket till the waist, but still it covers the whole back. So you will need rather big hoops, I think about maybe 50 centimeters. So I advise you to use the embroidery frame. It will be much easier for you to work, because you will have the possibility to reach your embroidery from every side of the frame. And as you can see, we use some kind of a velvet, but it's not the velvet fabric. Actually, it's not the original, the natural velvet. It's the artificial velvet with some kind of a thing inside that prevent velvet to get dirt, so it can be cleaned very easily. And since it's supposed to be the jacket, and the person who will purchase it, he will supposed to wear it outside, so it can be dirty. In some places it can be very easily cleaned by hand or by the brush by the owner, not to give this jacket to the dry clean, because since we are using feathers here and some materials rather fragile, I would worry about giving such things to the dry clean. So of course the thing with the hand embroidery, they should be cleaned very carefully, very attentively, and you have to think about, before making the embroidery, how your client will care about the things that he will purchase from you with the embroidery. So we use the special artificial velvet, but you can use, of course, the ordinary cotton velvet. Also pay attention that there should be no elastic in it, because since we are tempering our fabric, there should be no elastic, otherwise we'll have no possibility to embroider it correctly. Cotton velvet, cotton, linen, wool, wool for the coats or for the jacket also will work good. And also I advise you to think before the making embroidery where you will put your embroidery, because if you will make such beautiful looking embroidery on a very short piece of a cloth and you will understand that you have no possibility to put it anywhere, I think it will be a pity. So think already before making the embroidery where you will locate it, what things you can use with this embroidery, and cut then a piece of a cloth that will allow you to cut a part of a pattern if you're planning to do the jacket or the skirt maybe, or the bag with this embroidery. So let's talk about the materials. As I told, the tools, we will use the needle and the embroidery frame. For the materials, we will need lots of different knitting threads, wool, again wool, tweed, mohair threads. We'll use the floss threads. We'll use lots of metallic threads by the Madeira. We work, majority of our embroideries are done with the Madeira threads, because they have the huge variety of colors and different textures. And this actually, I think, the only brand that we use in such huge volume. So we'll work with the absolutely stunning looking melange threads, and they really look very good here. And we will add some feathers, and we also will work with artificial leather or some vinyl fabric, depending on the things that you have. And we'll add some different sizes of the beads. And as you can see, there will be no sequence. It's, I think, the first embroidery that we are making, and there is no sequence in it at all. And we also will need lots of felt for making the volume, for making the stamp work. So be sure to have the felt in your materials. No matter the size, we use a 3mm thickness felt, but you can use 1mm thickness. The only you will make them to put 3-4 layers to make them volume enough. So what else I can say about this embroidery before we'll start doing it? I can tell that this is, I think, maybe the most, as I told, most peculiar embroidery, because it uses lots of different technique and makes such different textures that we never used before and we never did before. I can't say that we didn't know some techniques. Of course, we know lots of different techniques, but we rarely use them. And here we used lots of techniques, very interesting techniques. We understood that what kind of embroidery it can create, and what actually I like also in these Games of Thrones embroideries, that they create the embroideries based on the natural look. I mean, if the things located close to you, they have more volume on the embroidery, and if things located far from you, they are flat, so like in the real life. And these things is very interesting to make, because when you look on your embroidery, you immediately understand where the things on the embroidery are located, whether they are far from you or whether they are close to you. So it's a very interesting thing, and it's actually a little bit different from the medieval embroidery. I think you know that in medieval there was no such things as perspective, and people located all the things on the paintings at the same size as if they were close or far, because there was no understanding of this perspective thing. And in this embroidery it is. They have the perspective here. So okay, let's stop talking and let's try to make this embroidery by our own hands. So let's go.
This time we will do embroidery from the dresses and from the costumes of the serial Games of Thrones. And the first embroidery that we will do, exactly now that we are doing, is embroidery from the dress of the Lisa Arryn. And at first sight you can think that this is embroidery only of the house of the Arryn. But if you will look attentively, you will see that actually it's a double symbols of the both high houses of the Arryns and of the Tully, which Lisa is actually the representative of the house of the Tully. And to my mind it looks same like in Europe history, when in aristocratic family usually comes person who is maybe above that family or who is very rich and with all symbol of the house, and usually the members of the house in which this person came, they can add a part of the emblem of the newcomer to show to other people that such important person or such rich person came into our house and make our house more powerful, rich, and maybe more interesting in the field of the political influence. So I think here is the same system and same idea. And also to my mind, if we are talking about the history of the medieval, when people who are used to live in this high hierarchy, they usually know how to read the symbols and emblems of the different houses, and when they look at the emblem they can understand from what things comes from and which house married the other house, and from what houses usually people came, and what are the relatives, and with whom better to be friend, and with whom you can think about having a war. So here the same situation, we can see the hawk on the front view of the emblem, and we might think that it is only the emblem of the Arryn's house. But again, as I told, if you will look attentively, you will see small fishes located from the both sides of the hawk, and it means that in the house of Arryn's, the person from the Tully's family, the fish is the symbol of the Tully's family, a person came into this house and made this house more powerful and maybe more rich. If again we will talk about the idea, of course we can see the hawk on the front because it's the symbol of a man in this family. And in medieval society, a man, a husband, he was how to say, like the prime minister or the president of the family. He was the person who was the most important, who was the most powerful, and whose ideas and words should be obeyed and fulfilled in any case. And the wife, usually she was on the second role. She was a person who gave birth to kids, and she was a person who cares about the amount of children. Yes, and her duty was to produce kids and also to be the support of a husband, but still she is on the second role. So here we can see the same position. The hawk, a bird, is on the first side on the first scene, and the fish is looking like it's behind the hawk, or it's on the sides of a hawk, but it's not on the first rows. So it shows like the woman, she's the second, and the man, he is the first. Even though in the book and in the serial, the woman actually was at the first role. She was the lady regent of a Vale when her husband died. If we will talk about the birth of the symbols in the Games of Thrones, we can read about the family legend of the Arryn's family. When the founder of the Arryn's clan, Arryn's house, he came to the mountains of the Vale on a huge white hawk, and when he landed on the mountain, he managed to beat and to defeat the king's griffin, who was the king of this mountain. And after his victory, the artist Arryn, head of a future house of Arryn, he said that these lands will be my lands and I will rule at these lands, and he became the lord of the mountains, hills, and the meadow or vale, which actually is now a part of land of the house of Arryn. And after that, this white hawk and a moon on a blue in the blue skies is supposed to be the symbol of Arryn family. About the tallies symbol, I was trying to find more information, maybe the same family legend, or maybe I was not reading attentively book. If you know from the legend of this fish, I would be happy if you would write it in the comments. But I have managed to find only some simple description that fish, not actually the fish, the silver salmon, the jumping from the river is a symbol of a house of a tally, but why exactly the fish I didn't found, so I was trying to use my own imagination and the logic and the symbols of the house and try to understand why exactly the fish. So if we will see the lands that were ruled by tally, this river lands, and as they were described in the book, it is very rich lands, with lots of rivers, so we can understand it from the name of the riverlands, with lots of rivers. And if the land is full of water and full of rivers, it means that soil can give lots of fruits and lots of vegetables, and you will be able to have lots of harvest. So it means that these lands, they are rich, and the people who live on your lands, they will never feel starving. And fish, if we will see the symbol of a fish itself, also in our culture, I mean in our world culture, it means that fish means that you are rich, prosperous, that you will have lots of money, you will have lots of kids. Yes, if you're talking about the woman. And those who wanted to have a baby, in medieval, they even used to wear the symbol of a fish to help themselves to bear and conceive a child. So here I think the same idea, since the lands of Tally, they were rich and they were so interesting to other houses and other lords, and usually at these places there were lots of quarrels and battles. So fish usually means that we are rich, we are prosperous, and we can bring lots of money and power to a family. And usually, and also as I read about when I counted the amount of kids that the two daughters of the Tully family produced, they were, if I'm not mistaken, 6 on both of them. So it means that our daughters also can bring you lots of children. And in medieval, children, especially when they are men, and Tully's daughters, they brought lots of man-child. It was also a symbol of prosperity, because boys were supposed to bring more money and more power to the family. So this means that fish also can be the symbol of the prosperity of girls that will be wed from this family. So it's the idea of the symbol that I was trying to find. But actually, if we will talk about the world of Games of Thrones, I think you will have read, to my mind, lots of different articles where you might find the idea that author of the Games of Thrones, he was interested in European medieval history, and he wanted to make something that will be close or will be influenced by this medieval history. And also the author himself, he was saying he agreed with this, and he said that he was really interested in medieval history and even used some periods of European history, especially some battles, interesting battles, and the periods of English history as interesting pages to use them for his book. So I think for us will be interesting to see how maybe the people who lived in the Westeros, in this imagined world of George Martin, how they look alike to the people who lived at this period in Europe and in Asia, so in east to west of our world. So we will start from the people of the northern lands, and also if we will talk about the Westeros itself, you might find the idea that Westeros is exactly the territory of the British Isles, but with Ireland, but turned only upside down, because the seashore is nearly the same, and the wall of Arryn is located in the same place where the wall from the Games of Thrones also located. And the people who lived in northern lands, they are very similar to the people who lived at the same period in British Isles. They were also so proud, so open, and they were the people who ruled them. They were not looking very different from the people whom they ruled. The other citizens is the citizens of Iron Islands. They were supposed to be considered as our history Vikings, people those who was not doing any agricultural work or were not trying to care about the land. They were interested only in raids, and they lived from raid to raid, and the only thing they understood and the only thing they cared about was the way of war and the amount of the trophies they will get from these raids, and all that war things that they did. So we can find the same ideas with Vikings from these people of the Iron Lands. About the capital of the Seven Kingdoms, the King's Harbor. If we will read about the King's Harbor, it will remind us about the Mediterranean cities and about the late Roman Empire and early Italy. I will tell it Italy, of course. You understand that Italy appeared in the way we understand it in 19th century, but still I will call that it's in Italy for easier for me to explain. And if we will read again about the King's Harbor, we will understand that all the beauties and all the culture and everything that will be there, it will be found only in the Red Castle. And the streets of the city was itself very poor and very smelly, and reminded us about every medieval city that can be found in Europe at that time. And I would also tell that if you manage to read the description of the Rome that did in 14th, 15th century, you will find the same description as it is done to the King's Harbor, because Rome was nearly the same. It was only the Pope's palace that was lavish and beautiful, and the other places like streets, they were all full of dirt, different rubbish and all that things. So you can see that lots of citizens of Westeros, they can be found very easily in our history, and it's really very interesting, I think, when you read a fiction book, but it feels like you're reading your own history. So I hope you like the idea of our embroidery serial, and I hope to see you in our other embroidery things that we will do.
Okay friends, we are done. I hope you all like what we were doing in this video. Maybe some of you will try to follow us and try to make something that we were doing. In case you like the way of the embroidery, you want to create the same embroidery as we do, so you can purchase the pattern of this embroidery and the video lessons of this embroidery located in our YouTube channel on our Etsy link. The link is located under this video, and feel free to purchase and to make the embroidery. Also, there will be the list of the materials that we're using exactly in this embroidery, and also will be the list of the materials that you can change, or the alternative materials that you can use here in case you will find difficult to find something that, some peculiar maybe things for you that we're using here. So feel free to purchase our pattern and our video classes, and I hope you like the video, and I hope to see you in our other videos that will be also dedicated to the serials and movies that we supposed and we are planning to create the embroideries from that videos that we are planning to create. Subscribe to our channel, please. Push the like button, and if you have some comments, we will be happy to read them, and if you have some questions, we will be happy to answer on your questions. So thanks for being with us. See you soon.